So what is it that makes a leader truly deeply respected? I mean, not just followed, but really honored. Well, today we're going to unpack a 2,500-year-old conversation that gets right to the heart of this question. And trust me, the answer is not what you'd expect. Let's get into it. You know, we usually think it's about charisma, or maybe some hardcore discipline or pulling off these huge achievements. But what if the real answer, the thing that really earns respect, is something much, much deeper?
Okay, so picture this. We're in ancient India, a place called Rajagaha, about 2,500 years ago. All the biggest spiritual heavy hitters of the day are in town, and their followers are all gathered, and there's this one question buzzing in the air. Of all these incredible teachers, who is the most revered, and why?
So, into this whole debate walks a wanderer by the name of Sakuludāyi, and he thinks he's cracked the code, at least when it comes to the Buddha. He goes right up to the Buddha to lay out his theory for why everyone admires him so much.
Sakuludāyi lays out his 5 points. He says, look, people respect you because you live this super disciplined, bare-bones life. You eat little, you're fine with whatever, and you live by yourself. Simple. And you know, on the surface that makes a lot of sense, right? It seems pretty logical. But this is where the whole story takes a really fascinating turn. The Buddha listens to this whole theory patiently, and then he just completely takes it apart. He's like, nope, that's not it. The Buddha basically says, actually, that's not quite right. He points out that, yeah, sometimes he eats a ton or wears nicer robes, and he's often surrounded by people from all walks of life. So if it's not these obvious outward signs of discipline, then what in the world is it? To get to the real answer, we have to do more than just read the English translation. We've got to put on our detective hats and dig into the original Pali words themselves, because that's where the real insight is hiding.
So let's start with this word for contentment, santutto. A first-pass, surface-level translation makes it sound like you're happy with just a few things. But when you look under the hood, at its roots, you find a totally different meaning.
See, the word is actually made of 2 parts, san, which means within, and tutti, which means satisfaction. So it's not about being content with something outside of you, like simple food. It's about a deep satisfaction that comes from within, which means what's happening on the outside, well, it just doesn't matter that much.
And we see this exact same pattern with the word for seclusion, pavivito. Sakuludāyi saw a guy who was physically alone a lot. But the real, deeper meaning has nothing to do with where your body is. It's a state of mind. It's this mental detachment that lets you be totally serene and centered, even if you're in the middle of a noisy, crowded city.
Okay, so Sakuludāyi's whole theory was basically a big misunderstanding. So the Buddha then reveals the 5 real reasons, these profound internal qualities that are the actual foundation of respect. This is the real deal.
The first quality, the bedrock of everything else, is called adisila.
Now, a quick translation might be supreme virtue, but that sounds a little vague. The deeper meaning is so much more solid. It's having an ethical character that is perfectly put together, totally consistent, and absolutely unshakable. It's not just about being a good person, it's about operating from this flawless ethical core.
Imagine a structure built from these perfectly interlocking blocks. Every single piece fits seamlessly, supporting all the others. The result is a foundation that is incredibly strong, totally stable. There are no gaps, no weak points, not a single crack. That's ahadisila. It's this deep internal integrity that people can just feel, and they trust it completely.
Building right on top of that solid foundation is the next quality, adipanya kinsha.
Again, you could translate it as supreme wisdom, but it's way more specific than that. This isn't just about being smart or knowing a lot of facts. It's a kind of wisdom so sharp, so penetrating, that it cuts right through all the confusion and literally sets you free. It's wisdom that liberates.
Picture the most hopelessly tangled knot of threads you can imagine. You know, the kind that represents all our confusion, our worries, our problems. Adipanya is like a single focused point of light that just touches that knot, and in that one instant, the whole thing just falls apart. It unravels instantly, effortlessly. That's the kind of clarity we're talking about.
The other 3 qualities just build right on this. First, people respected him because he taught from direct personal experience, not just from books or theories. Second, he could look at the human condition, diagnose the root of our suffering, and give an answer that actually made sense. And maybe most importantly, he didn't just keep it to himself. He He provided a clear, step-by-step path so other people could find that same freedom too.
And that's the whole point, isn't it? The real reason for respect isn't about keeping up some outward appearance, some pose of discipline. It's about providing a genuine, substantial, life-changing path for other people to walk.
You see the difference? Sakuludāyi saw 5 simple rules about what not to do, but what his followers were actually getting was this huge, comprehensive toolkit for transforming their own minds. It was a system, not just a list of restrictions.
And I mean, the sheer scope of what he offered was incredible. You've got the 4 Foundations of Mindfulness, the Noble Eightfold Path, the 7 Factors of Awakening, deep meditative states called the jhanas, the 8 Liberations, paths to higher knowledges. I mean, the list just goes on and on. This wasn't a simple lifestyle choice. It was a profound science of the mind.
And that really brings us to the core lesson here. True, lasting respect isn't earned by showing off what you can give up. It's earned by what you give other people the power to achieve for themselves.
You know, this 2,500-year-old chat is so relevant for us today. It teaches us that a truly respected leader isn't just admired for their discipline. They're admired for their wisdom and for their ability to lay out a clear, transformative path that actually helps other people get where they want to go.
So I'll leave you with this question to think about. We spend so much time and energy valuing leaders for their image, for their brand. But what would happen, what would change if we started valuing them for their wisdom instead?